Hi, grade 9 students. We're now moving on to the next part of our notes. Lesson 2, or here in this booklet they're calling it Lesson 8-6, Factoring Trinomials of the type ax squared plus bx plus 6. So we'll just read this first section together, and I've made a tiny little edit. Factoring a trinomial with a coefficient greater than 1 in front of the first term is a longer process. It requires careful thinking and checking. Careful thinking and checking. The following steps will lead you to the right answer for every problem. So that's definitely true. I remember doing this in high school. I don't remember much about what I did in high school math, but I do remember doing this because it really required a lot of thinking. So here let's look at we're going to work through this problem as our example problem, and then we'll get more like it. But let's see what we should write down for our step 1. Okay, and color coding may be something you want to do if you have highlighters at home. They don't have to be yellow and green, but maybe 2 different colors would be great. Make a diamond, but use A times C, or in this case, 6 times 7 equals 42 for the top, and B, or 23, for the bottom. Okay, so we're going to put 42 on the top, and B, and that's because 6 times 7 is 42, and B, 23 for the bottom. And I realize you may be pausing to catch up, so just do that. And now I'm going to move on to show you step 2, so you can write step 2 down. Step 2 is bring down the terms AC and substitute for the factor diamond. So I guess actually before here we should write that we're going to solve for the sides. Okay, so we still have our puzzle. What 2 numbers, when we multiply them, give us 42, but when we combine them, give us an answer of 23. So these 2 numbers are both going to be positive because our answer is positive. And we have 23 here. So we should probably take this time to go back to our cheat sheet. Okay, here's our cheat sheet that we worked on yesterday or in the last lesson. And here are all the factors of 42. Now, we are looking for 23. 42 and 1, that won't give us 23. 21 and 2, well, look at that. We could get equals 23. So we found our 2 factors. All right, so we've answered our puzzle question. And now, hopefully, you've written down what step 2 is. And step 2 says to bring down A and C. So what we're getting at here, and so draw in these arrows. And you may even want to say like step 2 on this arrow. Bring down A and C. Bring down 6x squared. And on this side, bring down the plus 7. And if you remember from lesson 1, we reviewed that when you're first multiplying binomials, you have 4 separate little answers because of the distributive property. So what we're going to do now is substitute the diamond factors. So see how in step 2 it says substitute the diamond factors. So we're going to say plus, I'm going to do this one like this. I hope you're using pencil because I'm doing it wrong on purpose. I don't know exactly where to put the 21 and the 2. I just know that I need to put the 21x, that's my factor number here, and my 2x here. But upon looking at it, I think, well, 2x and 6x squared, well, they're at least divisible by 2. And 21 and 7, they have something in common. They're both factors of 7. So if you start off by making an error, okay, and this is where careful thinking comes in. Remember how we said careful thinking? Careful thinking. So, and again, you know, it's just going to take practice. This is not the easiest math topic in the world, especially for grade 9 students. So you just have to keep working at it. I'm going to put the 2 and the 6 together and the 21 and the 7 together. And just realize you could have, you have to think about where to put those numbers. All right, and let's move on to step 3. What do we do after we've done this? Because we have done step 2 now. Give ourselves a little check. We did this job. We did this job. What's our next job? Our next job is to split the 4 terms into 2 groups and greatest common factor. Find the greatest common factor of each group. So on my page, I have the person who did this drew a big dividing line saying, this is going to be one group, and on the right side is going to be another group, and we're going to have 6x squared plus 2x. We could even just put those in brackets. And we're going to have 21x plus 7. And remember we said we thought at least 21 and 7, they have one thing in common, they're divisible by 7. So if we factor out a 7, and we show that by putting the 7 in front, and then sort of saying, how many times does 7 go into 21? Well, 3x. How many times does 7 go into 7? Just once. Okay, and then on this side, we can factor out an x and a 2. So 2x. How many times does 2 go into 6? 3 times. How about x into x squared? Well, that leaves us with 1x. So 3x. How many times does 2 go into 2? Once. X into x once. So here's what we have. And then where the magic is, here let's use a different color to highlight. So I've highlighted those, and hopefully you can see we have 2 3x plus 1s, which is exactly what we wanted to have happen. Now, matching. You can see here in the step 4, they talk about matching. Step 4 is regroup the outside factors into the first binomial. So the outside factors in our case would be the 2x and the 7. So we'll regroup them and make them our first binomial, 2x plus 7. And next to it, write the matching binomial once. So see how we have these matching binomials, 3x plus 1? We're just going to write it once, 3x plus 1. And then a fifth step, we don't have step number 5 on here, but a fifth step could be check to verify. You could do the distributive property and just make sure that this times this times this, that times that, that times that. Get your 4 little answers. Are your 4 little answers these 4? And do they then combine to give you this original trinomial? So just like when you were solving algebraic equations, you could check to verify whether you got the answer right. You can still do that in this topic. All right, in the middle of the page we have a little song you could sing to yourself. It's to the tune of Twinkle Twinkle, sort of. I sang it to myself just a few minutes ago. I think if you take out these words, you might be able to get all the words in. But give that a try. I'm not going to sing it for you, sorry. Check your understanding. So here we have the chance to try to do a couple of questions. I would recommend that you pause the screen and then come back and see if you were able to do all 4 steps and get this right. Okay, here I am in a partway stage of answering part A. Did you get this? Did you do your diamond with 7 times 2 or 14 as your top number, 9 as your bottom? 7 times 2 is 14, and 7 plus 2 is 9. Bring down the 7x squared, and bring down the 2, And next step is I'm going to put my two other factors in the middle. All right, and there's the final answer. 7x plus 2 times x plus 1. And I showed you how to do that. And I just realized there's a little notation error I did up here before. So if you could go back up to the top of the page where you were copying and put the plus symbol in between these two binomials, because we don't want to say that at this point they're multiplying. That would be wrong. But we could say that these two are together and they're added to these two. And then we work with finding the greatest common factor of each one. So if you add those two plus symbols there, then our notation will be correct. Thank you. And then we have a check your understanding for B. So now would be a good time to pause the screen, and I'll come back in a few seconds with the answer. All right, and here we are with the answer to B at the bottom of the page. Hopefully you were able to follow the steps. And if not, then take a look at mine. Did we set up the diamond right? 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. That goes in the top. The B term, or this negative 7, goes in the bottom. Then you have a puzzle to answer. What two numbers multiply to give you negative 18, but combine to give you negative 7? And we found that it should be positive 2 and negative 9. The 3x squared and the 7x squared get brought down, as they say in the instructions, but I like to just put one on the far left side and one on the far right side, so I have room to put my two other terms in the middle. And they will be negative 9x and positive 2x. And I decided to put the negative 9 with the 3 because my next goal is to find greatest common factors. But again, this is part of the thinking process, and you may put the terms with on the wrong side, and then you just go back and you fix it. It's no big deal. So we group these two left terms and we group the two right terms. We find the greatest common factor, and the hope is that we've done it correctly so that we have matching factors. And we got matching factors. The matching factor was x minus 3. So the first binomial factor is 3x plus 2. That's because we take the 3x factor here and the 2 factor and write it as a binomial factor, 3x plus 2. And it's multiplied by the matching one, x minus 3. All right, so I have some questions for you next. I'll display them on the screen and then you can press pause. All right, here are 20 questions that you could try. Pause the screen and don't worry about trying all 20 questions, but do maybe the first 10. I just want to caution you here with number 5. You may want to write that out as 4x squared plus 0x minus 81. So the middle term is going to be two numbers that, when you combine them, give you 0. So you'll learn more about this particular number 5 one later, but for now just write it out as 4x squared plus 0x minus 81, and you should be able to factor it. All right, I don't want you to be disappointed because I'm going to display the answers in 2 seconds, so press pause. All right, here are the answers to all 20 questions. So good. I hope you are successful, and please let me know if you want to comment on this video. I'd love to hear your comments, and I hope this was helpful.